Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session, Ensuring a Reliable Microsoft Teams User Experience. My name is Rob Doucette, Vice President of Product Management at Martello. I'd like to take a few minutes going over a few modern workplace use cases in terms of some different industries and examples of Teams usage. We'll talk a bit about the visibility gap when it comes to monitoring the user experience with Teams, do a brief introduction of Martello Vantage DX, and jump right into a demo. First example I want to call out here is with an airline. And here's where we're seeing check-in and boarding services using Teams as a way to replace their traditional use of radios in terms of how they connect and communicate with colleagues. We've also seen where they're publishing ground crew schedules directly in Teams and sharing content with various key stakeholders within the airline, such as the frontline staff, management, and ground crew. The benefits that airlines are getting out of this is this continuous alignment across all the staff, regardless of whether they're interacting with passengers, field, management, and offices, which creates a better seamless experience for passengers. Since this content is all securely stored within Teams, we're not worried about leaks of information with paper copies lying around. And all this really drives down operational costs and drives up customer satisfaction. Jumping into the finance industry, we see a shift of internal events around training and workshops from in-person to Teams, replacing traditional telephony systems with Teams. And a reduction, again, like we saw with the airline industry, of physical storage, paper copies, that sort of thing. So we have digital paper trails, better security, and where there are workflows in place, an automated way to manage those workflows. The driving factor here from a benefits perspective is significant cost savings, whether that's through reduction of travel or reduction of phone costs. Again, same sort of statement we said with the physical storage. We reduce any chance of security leaks by securely storing everything in Teams. And when there are workflows, managing this through a digital platform like Teams gives us a faster turnaround for things like document approval and signing. Moving into an academic example here, where we see universities using Teams to provide a unified way to communicate between teachers and students, easily share, distribute materials, and then organize trips, often with third-party partners for those students and teachers. And universities are getting benefits here where they're really removing any communication barriers that may exist between teachers and students, and also setting them up so that they have the technological experience as they move forward with their careers or their lives by leveraging relevant technology within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. I'm going to call out two examples here that aren't industry specific, but more around horizontal use cases, where we see one in the onboarding experience where we're onboarding new customers or new employees. We can track these activities with Planner, daily tasks directly embedded into Teams. This is really a structured way that we can onboard new employees, give them one place where they can learn about company mission, management style, the tools and processes that may be in place for that organization. This really is a better experience for employees as they're onboarded, gives them a higher initial satisfaction, decreases the amount of time that they take to ramp up and get up to speed, really enforces that stronger company culture, and really all this ends up driving a higher employee retention. The other use case I wanted to call out here is around a product launch. This could be a store opening, a website launch, lots of different examples here. But again, it provides a central way for all departments to have up-to-date information as it pertains to the launch. And that might be content such as website design, marketing strategy, pricing strategy, competitive analysis, all that sort of thing that might go on with a product launch, and we have it all up to date in one place. Another common thing we see is integration of Microsoft Planner right in the team, so we have the details of the plan right at everybody's fingertips. And on the benefit side, we get clear alignment for these departments that are involved in a product launch, so they're not chasing for the latest version of a particular document. It's all available right within Teams. And the schedule, all the supporting materials, really easy to find, really easy to stay in touch. Those are just a handful of examples. There's many different other examples of Teams driving forward optimizations with business processes and workflows, ranging from construction to M&A activities. I mentioned store grand openings, alignment around recruitment if we're trying to hire some new people into our companies, a lot of different ways that we can leverage Teams. As we do so and leverage Teams and it becomes more mission critical in our organization, managing the end-to-end delivery of Microsoft 365 becomes very important. And there's a visibility gap that as we adopt Microsoft Teams, We know we have a lot of users that are working in home locations or remote locations. We may not have the same visibility from an IT monitoring perspective that we had when they were in the office. We don't have a lot of understanding in terms of the route they take to the cloud. So there's a lot of gaps in IT's visibility here, whether it's the user's local network when they're at home, the performance of their endpoint, the performance of their ISP, whether or not they're using a VPN. So a lot of moving pieces, and we need different tools to be able to get visibility into those aspects. So bringing in Martello's Vantage DX, we really enable an organization to become professional with their approach around Microsoft 365 and Teams, complement the activities that are already being done, free up time for your IT professionals so they can work on more strategic initiatives. And we walk through this prioritize, resolve, optimize workflow, where we can start with prioritize, give you immediate insights into what's going on with Teams and Microsoft 365 in your organization, so you can prioritize where to spend your time. Moving into getting detailed insights about the endpoint performance, about the network path or route to the cloud, giving you all the information you need to resolve those problems. And then last but not least, leaving with the ability to optimize your environment by integrating with your ITSM systems, tracking SLA and OLAs over time, and being proactive with the approach you take with monitoring your environment. Let's jump into a demo now. This is the analytics interface for Vantage DX. We're going to start with the prioritize step. We're going to be able to assess your Microsoft 365 environment for any performance and availability problems and help you prioritize where you should focus your efforts. At this point, we haven't deployed any agents or probes. The only thing we've had to do is configure our Teams integration with your Microsoft 365 credentials. Once that is done, Vantage DX automatically provisions a series of dashboards, as we see on the screen here today, allowing you to start digging into that information. We start by breaking down that information by location, by ISP, and by symptom. Let's start by digging into the locations. Here we're going to get a breakdown of all the countries where there may be activity happening within Teams, and we'll drill into Canada as an example. I see there's a few users here that have had some poor experiences, so I'm going to dig in and take a look at what sort of data I can get. Here I can understand which operating system the user is using, CPU architecture, details about where these calls are happening, the type of devices that the user is using, a breakdown of all the performance characteristics that explain this poor experience, all the call activity that's been happening. And I should point out if these calls were happening over a PSTN connectivity service, such as a calling plan or direct routing, we would also be able to see some details here about the trunk that's been used and some PSTN specific metrics. I get an alert generated for every poor or failed call that this user is having. And again, I can get some details about which meeting they were in when this happened, who they were talking to, the performance characteristics that explain the call, and what might be going on with that call. Let's jump back up and take a look at ISPs. Much like we saw with locations, this gives us the same breakdown, but now we can look at it based on the ISPs that our users are using. This allows us to identify if there are a large number of users all having problems with the same ISP, whether or not the ISP is to blame, and it's not actually a high number of problems with users on that ISP. We're going to dig into this in a little bit more detail once we get into the diagnostic section. So let's jump back up and take a look at the symptoms view. This is where we can break the data down by specific problems or symptoms. So for example, we have default views here that show any users that may have low bandwidth with their call activity, low bandwidth, but they're also on Wi-Fi, any failed or poor calls that are happening. And we can create specific views here in response to customer requests that may better align to what you're looking for. These range from things like looking for users that might be using particular devices, users with particular operating systems or CPU sets that are available to them, a wide variety of things that we can do, create these as rules, and they're completely dynamic. So as the environment changes, these views are completely up to date. So these three dashboards represent the default dashboards that automatically get provisioned for you, but often we hear from customers that there are other ways they wish to slice and dice this data. And for this, we have our more advanced business service section. Within the business services, we can slice and dice your Microsoft 365 data down by either department, a subset of users like VIP users, a particular application or service, or even a customer if you happen to be an MSP. I'm going to use this example I've created here for VIP users and their experience with Teams. Here I see a more detailed breakdown describing the end user experience, the health of the application that supports that experience, and the infrastructure components that are also required to deliver that experience. Here I'm going to drill into the infrastructure. I have a couple of components here that are being gathered from Azure Insights. And this is just an example of items that we can collect from third-party management systems. I'm going to jump into our integrations page just for a quick moment, just to emphasize the types of integrations that we support out of the box. So this represents all the third-party IT management systems that we support natively out of the box. They're all plug and play, much like I described the Teams experience at the very beginning. If we wanted to connect to System Center, for example, all I need to know is where System Center is installed and some credentials to talk to it. And that applies for all these integrations that we see here. This allows us to pull in useful data from tools like System Center or SolarWinds or PRTG, where those tools may have information about network devices, for example, that must function well for my users to have a good Teams experience. There's also a RESTful API behind all of this. So if you see anything in here that doesn't match with your environment, we also have options to do that through an API. Let's jump back into our business services view and jump back into our Teams VIP service. And jump back into the infrastructure view. The other components that we're including here are network diagnostics for my users using Teams. In this case, again, my VIP users. Let's take a look at this example. See, I don't have any specific problems with my Boston location here, but let's drill in and see what's going on. While everything is healthy right now, I do see that there have been some failed results in the past, and I want to take a look at what those represent. Drilling in here, I'm going to be able to see the specific path that my VIP users are taking, in this case from my Boston location, into the Teams data center. So here I get a hop-by-hop analysis of the network path taken between Boston and the Microsoft Teams data centers, including some performance metrics about each of those hops, things like packet loss, jitter, round trip time. This is a pretty raw view, so what I'm going to do is go into the grouping option here and group by network owner. And what this is going to do is it's automatically take those network hops and identify who owns that segment of the network. In this case, I can see that Microsoft is where some packet loss is being introduced, 10% of packet loss as I'm entering in the Microsoft section of the network. This is a tool that's proven to be very useful for IT teams today, where a lot of users may be in different environments, like in a home office, for example, where their network may not be well tuned or they're competing with bandwidth with other users in their home. And we could quickly identify whether the problem they're experiencing is related to their endpoint, their local network, or even their ISP. Jumping back up into the analytics interface, I'm going to take one step back up and let's take a look at the application perspective here. I'm getting some information here directly from Microsoft through my tenant. I'm going to drill in and see what's going on here. I'm getting some alerts here that are describing some issues that are happening with Teams. Again, this is a bulletin from Microsoft saying that users may experience multiple issues with the PSTN service in Microsoft Teams. So this might explain what we just saw in the network diagnostics, that there was indeed some packet loss happening in the Microsoft portion of the network. At the same time, when we look at this message, it's rather vague. It doesn't really specify which users are having a problem or what that problem might actually be. But since I have this modeled as a business service, if I take a step back up to our business service view, I know exactly which users are impacted because I've modeled it with my VIP users that are using Teams. And I can drill into any of that data as we saw before, where I can identify all the users that may be impacted and what's going on with those particular users. When it comes to better understanding which parts of the applications are functioning, we have robot users that can interact with Microsoft 365 that give us a proactive view of what might be going on. I see I've got some problems here with my Boston location. So I'm going to drill into our monitoring interface and take a look at what might be happening. I'm going to take a look at the Teams view here. And what I'm looking at here is the output of our robot users. And these are users that are executing synthetic transactions. Again, it's a robot user. And these robot users interact with Microsoft 365 24/7 and perform various actions, much like a user would, looking for problems. In this case, on the Teams front, you can see that we are not just interacting with the endpoint and seeing that the endpoint is available, but rather executing very specific transactions, much like your users would, holding audio and video calls, uploading content to channels, creating channels, all the types of things that your users might do. Along the left here, you can see the wide variety of applications within the Microsoft 365 stack that we perform these same type of actions for. So for example, if I jump over to OneDrive, I'll get a similar view that shows me the output of all the actions the robot users are running against OneDrive. In this case, what's the login time, upload and download time into OneDrive. Again, these robot users are running 24/7, and the idea is these robot users will find problems and notify your IT before users even notice and complain. Jumping back up to the analytics interface again. I'm going to navigate back up to our service view here. And I also have this incidents tab here. And what this is allowing me to do is synchronize this information with ServiceNow in this example. We support a wide variety of ITSM tools. And what we can do is take any issues that may be happening with my VIP users and teams and correlate this into ServiceNow as a single incident. So if I look at the details of this incident, I can see this incident was created by Vantage DX. We see that high packet loss issue that we saw in our network diagnostics. We'll also get the details of any bulletins that Microsoft has published, which users are impacted. All the details we know about this problem all get summarized here and sent up to ServiceNow. This enables your service desk team to have all the information about a particular issue without getting swarmed by a large number of alerts or incidents that make it very difficult to correlate and understand what's really impacted and what's the action we should take to fix this problem. I'm going to jump over to our SLA report here. And this is where we can provide an end-to-end view of how well this service has been delivered for this particular case. Again, we're looking at my VIP users and their experience with Teams. And I get a breakdown day by day, hour by hour, how well have my VIP users been using Teams. Along the bottom, I get any details of downtime. In this case, I see some specific users that did have some problems. And again, like we've already seen a couple times in the demo, I can get quite a bit of detail about that user to understand what might be going on. This also gives me a prescriptive view in terms of the next reporting period, the next month, the things I should be solving in order to deliver a better service next month. So if I see that there were some network devices here that maybe were problematic and causing issues for my users, I could solve that and be convinced that the next month I'm going to deliver a much better service for these users. Along the bottom here, I can generate this dashboard into a PDF report spanning this current month or any number of months that I wish to choose, and share this quite easily as that PDF internally or externally. We can also provision access to this interface directly if we wish through our role-based access control system, and I'll just jump over to our settings to show that now. So within our roles, we can define a role for a particular department or a particular customer if you're an MSP, give them a login, and then give them very granular access in terms of which boards, which business services, which data sources should they have access to, whether they have full write access or read-only access. And this is a great ability to be able to share this information. A customer, for example, in an MSP model can log in directly, take a look at these data, this data and these dashboards themselves, and see how well the service is being delivered. So just to summarize, I hope you've seen that using a combination of Teams call quality analytics that doesn't require the deployment of any agents, rich diagnostics information that spans the network path to the cloud, and synthetic transactions that provide your IT team with the ability to find problems before your users do, all wrapped into a high-level business service view with SLAs on top, really allow you to get your arms around effective management of Microsoft 365 and put out any performance and availability problems that may be there. Just a few notes about Martello here. So we've been delivering cloud service solutions for over 10 years, recognized as a Microsoft Gold partner, as well as co-sell prioritized, market recognition from analysts in the market. We have specialists all around the globe, so regardless of where your organization may be, we're well suited to help you in your Microsoft 365 journey. And we get great reviews from our customer base through some of the surveys that we're showing here. In terms of next steps, I hope you saw today how Martello could help you manage the user experience and deliver better experiences to your users, whether they're using Teams or other aspects of the Microsoft 365 solution. We'd love to book a demo where we could show you this in more detail, or move you into a trial where we can run this in your environment and you can get these insights for your own data and your own users. We also have an Ultimate Teams Performance Guide, which identifies the top metrics that IT can use to measure the team's user experience. That'd be a great resource for you to check out as well. And I hope you found today's session helpful. Thanks, everyone.